Good evening, Andrews University. Happy Sabbath. Okay, if you'd all please rise and join me in reciting the Sabbath command as it shows up on the screen. Happy Sabbath again. I could also just say it by myself while you guys smile at me. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and recite it by myself if you guys don't mind. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heaven and the earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested the Sabbath day. Therefore, the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. If you'd please bow your heads with me as we pray. Dear God, thank you so much for the privilege of prayer, the privilege of worship, and allowing us to be able to gather tonight to worship your name. I pray that you open our hearts to be able to receive the message that you have for us tonight, and help us to be a blessing to others as we leave this place later. In your holy name, amen.
Sabbath. Have you guys ever felt like Friday couldn't come soon enough? And then Friday comes and it's not exactly the Friday that you pictured? Like you're hoping for peace and happiness and joy and things just to relax, and then all of a sudden a whole bunch of stuff crashes on you, right? That happens sometimes. And mics sometimes fall. There we go. Well, here's the beautiful thing. When that happens, we have life breathed into us when we take a moment to say a prayer. To say a prayer that invites Jesus to change everything, the climate around us, and to change our hearts. And I want to thank two friends this afternoon who took some time to pray with me, because that's how I was feeling. I was feeling like a whole bunch of stuff was happening that was out of control. And this on the day that I got the iPhone 5. It just didn't seem like that was fair. But this evening, I want life to be breathed into you. And so I've been blessed by Deliverance's opening song. I just thank you. You were a blessing to me. The next portion of Vespers tonight is a really interesting thing. It's not something that I've seen experienced at church, and that's that we're actually going to have a debate. A debate on politics. Could you imagine that? A debate on politics. Now, here's what I want you guys to know while Tyler and Claudia come out. We are intentionally asking them to be provocative. So they are representing views that may not necessarily be their own views. So don't walk away from this experience tonight having heard what they said and think, man, I can't believe they think that, because this is not a reflection necessarily of their thoughts. This is a reflection of their position. And the reason we thought it was a good thing to have this debate is because something big is happening in America right now. Can anybody tell me what that is? Yeah, elections. So it's really important for us to have these kinds of conversations. So we're going to try to stick to debate style as much and format as much as possible. They are basically evaluating the question or the proposition that Adventists have an expectation and moral demand to be engaged in meaningful ways with politics. Claudia is going to be in support of that position, and Tyler is going to be representing an opposing point of view. They will start now, each of them, with a couple of minutes to make their opening statements. And following their opening statements, they'll each then have a small portion of time, about a minute, to give their initial rebuttals, and then we'll have 2 subsequent questions. All right? So you guys understand what's happening here. We're having a debate that's intentionally provocative and demanding that you listen to the different points of views and that they may not be representing their own points of view. So, Claudia, in favor of the position, please go ahead and start with your opening statement.
There is an old expression that states, "Don't be so heavenly minded that you are of no earthly good." This statement speaks to our calling as Christians to love with our actions and not simply our antidotes, to love with our deeds and not our doctrine, to love like Christ and not live like Christ's lookalikes. As the true Christian prescribed, it is our duty to influence the moral ethic of our society by concretely defining what it means to love your neighbor as yourself. When we take in the fatherless, bring educational sight to the educationally blind, take care of the widow, clothe the naked, feed the hungry, we are not only doing these things for Christ himself, but we are validating our mission statement, which is to go, therefore, and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things that I have commanded you. Without our presence, influence, and voice in the political conversation of the United States of America, we rob ourselves of converts because we do not exemplify our teaching. In the words of a recent seminary graduate, if we do not actively pursue good in our surroundings, evil will prevail.
Thank you, Claudia. That was in under 2 minutes. Go ahead, Tyler. You have 2 minutes.
Well, I think it's important to first start off with, when we're approaching a topic like this, what the purpose of the Adventist Church is and what we really want to accomplish. And the big thing here is that we're trying to bring people to God and spread God's word. And so that has a lot to do with influence. So when you think about what is our purpose, it's to get as much influence as we possibly can. This idea of influence is something that kind of permeates politics. And so when you think about our goal to gain as much influence as we possibly can, by taking a political side, it kind of takes that option away. You're really never going to, you've probably heard the idea that you're never going to please everyone 100% of the time, all right? And so I think it's important in that sense to make sure that our position is neutral, so political neutrality a little bit. You know, it says in Galatians 3:28, there's neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free, male nor female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. And I think if we take sides in political affairs, it's kind of narrowing our influence when our goal should really be to expand our influence, to increase our influence, to try and get as much influence as we possibly can. And when we're kind of eliminating 50% of the population, it hurts our credibility a little bit. You know, so I think Christ really, in many senses, promotes us to try and get rid of those lines that divide us, especially political lines. Sometimes you think about what exactly it means to be in politics, and politics is pretty flawed in many instances, and in some cases you can even argue corrupt. You know, so the question is that something we really want to be associated with? Is that something we want to hinge our credibility on, and is it reducing our influence? And I think it probably is.
All right. Claudia, you have an opportunity to give a rebuttal to his opening statement.
Well, Tyler, I agree with some of what you were saying, but I feel like it's so important for us to not be confused. I feel like, you know, to not choose is to make a choice. So I cannot choose to do something, but at the end of the day, if I don't choose to do something, then there is no change. So if I see that there's a social issue, if I see that there is a need, and then I choose to take the neutral side, then we begin to see that whatever evil is being perpetuated is continuing to be perpetuated because I have not chosen a side that is going to make a change to that need. And I feel that as Christians, we are called to make a choice concerning the moral and ethical standards that are represented in the Bible. We are called to make a choice and actually choose a platform that can advocate many of those moral ethics found in the Bible.
All right. Perfect. Now, one thing that that I heard you mention was love with your deeds, and it's I think I completely agree with that. By the way, it's something that we definitely need to practice as Christians. However, the question that I have is, can you love in politics? Politics is something that's very cutthroat. It's something that that it's a do or die out there. I mean, people are really dog eat dog world. Politics is the very kind of personification of that. And so when you think about something like loving with your deeds, do we want to use the actions that we have? Are we going to use our influence in something like politics? I mean, loving with our deeds, I don't know if loving is something that you can do in politics.
Well, actually, Tyler, the Oxford English Dictionary defines politics as a set of activities that influence a kind of change, primarily dealing with power and status. And so I don't know if it's necessarily that, if I'm competing against you that I can love you, but I think that the outcome of politics is what really exemplifies the love. And I think politics, what it does is it creates a platform that creates programs, that creates ideas for us to actually be able to care for others, to actually be able to get our message out to others. So I may not love you as my, opposing component, but I think that at the end of the day, politics in and of itself is trying to create a atmosphere and programs and activities to aid in the American society as a whole.
I agree with that in the sense that that is the ideal form of politics. However, I think we can all agree that politics is not ideal. I think we can agree that the world itself is not ideal. And so if you want to go by the Webster's dictionary, you can. But I prefer to go with reality a little bit. And I would disagree with that. I would say definitely that's the ideal form of politics, but in reality, it's just not going to work.
All right, thank you for keeping it cordial. Again, intentionally provocative. Next question, and Tyler, you'll be the first to respond. How does our involvement with politics affect our credibility in the world, particularly in the area of church and state relations? What bearing do we have in that, but also generally speaking, how do we build credibility in the world?
Okay. When it comes to politics, I don't really know if we need credibility in politics. Is that even an area that we should, again, be involving ourselves with? When I think about credibility, especially if we're going to take a side one way or the other on any political issue, we're immediately kind of taking away our credibility with the other side. And so that kind of goes back to the point I was mentioning before. Can anyone really gain enough credibility in politics? Let's take Christianity out of it. Let's take Adventism out of it. When it comes to the credibility, I would say probably 50% of the U.S. right now doesn't think Obama is very credible. They can't really believe what he says. The other 50% would say the same about Mitt Romney. And so I question whether anyone can really gain credibility in the political arena. I think it's a battle we really can't win. Politics in and of itself, and especially if you think about in biblical terms what's coming up, if we really truly believe we're in the end of times, what is left? I mean, we know that it's kind of going to continually progress downward, so why be involved with it in the first place? And I also think that when it comes to politics, if you're going to take a sense of neutrality, people respect that. Think about countries like Switzerland. The Swiss are known for neutral stances in all wars and politically and all that kind of stuff. And they're one of the most respected countries and most affluent countries in the entire world. So with that, I would really say neutrality would be the best stance, and that would gain us the most credibility.
When you look in the Bible, it says that God sets up kingdoms and he tears down kingdoms. And so if God himself is involved in politics, then who am I as a Christian to say that I am not going to be involved in politics? So, the Bible also speaks when in the New Testament, Christ said, he looked at the denarii and he said, whose face is on the denarii? And he said, Caesar's face is on the denarii. And when you flip the other side, you see Caesar's face. So obviously you must render to Caesar that which is Caesar's. You must render to God that which is God's. So it is not possible for you to be a true Christian and not engage in politics. Because at the end of the day, that which is biblical is also political.
All right, go ahead. Rebuttal.
I would question your definition of politics in that case, because if you were to say that to not be engaged in politics is non-Christian, I would say count me out as a Christian, because the politics that I see today is completely flawed. It's very corrupt. It's something that people are constantly going at each other, and where have we come the last 8 years? I mean, I'm not just talking about one party or the other. But gosh, the two sides have done absolutely nothing to make us a better nation. I mean, in some senses, but overall, we continue to kind of spiral downward. So politics in so many ways, and of course, there's an exception to every rule, but it's very, very negative. People fight, people argue, people get nowhere. And so I would question whether to really say to be a Christian is to also be political.
But you know what, I have to disagree with you, because if you look in history and you see the civil rights movement, you see that there was an absence of the Adventist church. If you look at the Holocaust, and you see that there was an absence of the Adventist church. When you look at any major movement, any major political problem, any major social issue, the Adventist church wanted to take a neutral gray stand to it. But at the end of the movement, the Adventist church received the benefits that came from the movement. So black Adventists that didn't want to participate in the civil rights movement are literally reaping the benefits of the civil rights movement. So if you say, you know, politics are corrupted, politics are bent, politics are broken, well then let's all just say that we're going to be Christians, we're not going to participate in politics, but don't participate and then don't reap the benefits of it. Don't get the benefits. Still sit in the back of the bus, okay? Don't sit in the front of the bus. Sit in the back of the bus. Because you didn't march. You didn't care to march. You didn't care to make a Facebook status. You didn't care about nothing. So,
All right. Again, just another gentle reminder that they may not be representing their own views and intentionally being provocative and maybe representing their own views, but final question. What role do politics play in representing our distinct Adventist identity and gospel message?
Ladies first.
Revelation 14, verse 6 through 13 is the three angels' messages, and that is our Adventist identity and gospel message. And that is supposed to be spread to the entire world. And God's word is transformational. Therefore, if we as Christians do not live up to the gospel message that we preach from Matthew 28 and Revelation 14, then we lose an element of validity. It is not waiting on the government to solve social problems, but it's pushing the government to engage in the social justice on a greater platform. We have a habit of not acting and working for social justice, yet we've been caught benefiting from the social change, like I had mentioned before. And therefore, whatever form, avenue, or medium we use, we as gospel-preaching believers must be concerned about all people at all times. And as a voting citizen of the United States of America, we are given the opportunity to act on and influence the lives of many Americans. It is within our Adventist message to care in whatever form that takes. When we look in history, Adventists were absent. And if we look at many things, Adventists have reaped the benefits. And so I just feel like it is so important that for us to preach a particular message of love and acceptance and belonging, that we ourselves should be a part of the activities that help to form that love and belonging.
I'm going to take this off here. I was told I need to speak into the mic. Very good. I like that. Very good. That was good. As far as our identity is concerned, I would have to say our identity is not in politics at all. And I think we can all agree on our identity, and our identity as a church is to maintain our mission, which is to really get the gospel out there. So when I think about our identity, how can we best maintain our identity? is to stay pure, clean, and neutral. Stay out of one side or the other. Try and reach as many people as we possibly can. And maintain that credibility with the most amount of people. Again, it's all about influence here. So our mission is to bring people to Christ. Our mission is to preach the gospel and let as many people know about Christ as we possibly can. To really maintain distinct, to have a distinct identity, and again, Christ calls us to be different. If anyone ever calls you abnormal or weird, rep that, we are weird. We're different. We're abnormal. And that's something that we can really be proud of. So I would really say to maintain our identity best, we have to stay out of the political arena, especially in regards to how politics are today. I think we have enough politics in our church. I don't necessarily think we need to get more political. I think really what the focus should be is Christ. So maintaining that relationship with Christ and bringing as many people as possible to him.
But when you even look at Christ's example in the New Testament, when he was here, he was about his Father's business. But when he was here, he was still impacting and influencing, if I may take your word. He was influencing those around him. And so he was engaging in political activity. When you really look at the New Testament, Christ was a radical. Christ was engaging in conversation, and he was engaging in things that were not necessarily Jewish, that were not necessarily supported by the synagogue. And so I feel like sometimes we get so caught up in what our synagogue and what our laws and what our doctrines are preaching and teaching that we cannot even be of relevance to those who are around us. So if you don't even want to engage in politics, if you don't want to deal with the social issues that are going on, but, you want to baptize folk, you want to have numbers, in order for you to have somebody in these pews, you have to go witness. Now, when I go witness, if I can't even have a conversation with you about the social issues that you're going through, then how can I get you to be in the Adventist church? And so I feel like politics is so much more than just it's corruption. Politics is, if I want to grow this church, if I say that I have a gospel mission to grow and spread the gospel message, I have to be able to relate to you. And at the end of the day, there is a king, there is a president, there is a prime minister, and he has to be voted in, whether it be Democratic or Republican. And I suggest that if you are given the right to vote, voting actually separates you from being a subject or a civilian. And when you have the right to vote, you are exhibiting that practice. And so I feel like you choosing to engage in politics is you choosing to be an involved, intelligent, educated, but still Christian individual within this country.
Ready to rebuttal? So last thing here, and we'll wrap things up. As far as your comments, I agree with a lot of them, by the way. But the big thing that I think really is the one thing I would suggest to critique it a little bit is the fact that we can relate to people and also keep our distance from politics. And so I would say, as far as relatability is concerned, of course that's important. But when it comes to our church mission, I don't think politics is necessary. I wouldn't say politics is a necessity. I think it's more of a kind of a distraction. And so I would honestly say, if we're really going to reach as many people as we possibly can and bring as many people as we can to God, we need to be focusing on the people and not the politics. So.
Let's give our debaters a hand. Thank you guys for being provocative, for being informed, and representing two different points of view. And I hope that what the rest of us do is that we begin to have this conversation on how we should be engaging in politics in the world. Something that's unique about Adventism is that we do have a world presence. We have nearly 20 million members everywhere. And wherever you go in the world, you're going to see Adventists in the public eye in different ways, shapes, and forms, predominantly through education, hospitals, publications. we are in some ways always informing the community and the social well-being. To what extent we do that does vary contextually, but it's important for those of us who live in this America where we have a right, but we also have a responsibility to vote. And that's what's coming, and that's what's pressing. So I'm glad for the views that they represented. I am pressing you now to say, keep talking about it, but make an informed decision. Step up and take action, because it's a good thing to do. We want to close this portion with the following video.
Every 4 years, the citizens of our country head to the polls to elect our nation's leader. Just in our generation alone, candidates have emerged with various backgrounds, ideas, and policies. But they all have one thing in common: promises. Eliminate the debt, secure our border, boost the economy, fix education, protect Medicaid, lower taxes, cut spending, reduce government, increase jobs, restore values, and make America great again. And now we are faced with a decision between left and right, liberal and conservative, Democrat and Republican. So we attend the rallies, write the checks, hear the debates, analyze the polls, listen to the spin, watch the ads, follow the campaigns, pick a candidate, go to the polls, cast our votes, and then we wait. And 4 years later, we do it all over again. But what if this time something changed? What if Christ followers throughout our country didn't just listen to promises? What if we made the promises? What if we promised to become the light of the world, the salt of the earth, the hope for our nation? What if we promised to love our neighbors, forgive our debtors, and pray for our enemies? What if we promised to feed the hungry, care for the sick, and serve the poor? What could happen if we kept our promises? Maybe America really can be great again.
Now's the time in our program where we get to know our speaker for tonight a little bit better. Pastor Anthony Kent comes to us originally from Australia, and he now lives in Maryland, where he is an associate secretary at the General Conference Ministerial Association. I know Pastor Kent a little bit personally. I consider him to be a personal friend and a mentor, and know him to be a faithful and gifted servant of the Lord. And I'm very sure that we're going to be in for a very special blessing tonight. But at this time in the program, we want to give you an opportunity to get to know Pastor Kent a little bit better. So behind me on the screen, there should be a phone number that you can text. But if it's not, there it is, right there. So go ahead and text that number, and we'll spend a few moments getting to know Pastor Kent a little bit better. But to start off, why don't you tell us a little bit about what exactly an associate secretary at the Ministerial Association does?
It's a mouthful, isn't it? The Ministerial Association exists to serve pastors. So we offer resources, we offer training, we offer support for pastors, pastoral families, the spouses of pastors, and also local church elders. And we also reach out to ministers of all denominations as well and other faiths. So we're there for pastors and their families.
Okay. Somebody wants to know how you feel about the issues in the debate tonight, on what you think, should Adventists be involved in politics or not?
Do I role model this, or do I actually? Personally, I think we need to have a voice. To be silent, we're really losing our place in society. we're not fulfilling our place. If we don't have a voice, what's the point of being here? So, yeah. But I think that cannot become our mission. We've got bigger and better fish to fry, so to speak, as a vegetarian, than getting sort of caught up with politics. Our mission is Jesus, and we need to keep that as the central focus.
Okay. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your family?
Okay. One wife, and her name is Deborah, and I think she's a goddess. We've been married for 25 years, and I got to tell you, marriage gets better and better. It really does. And it starts out good as well. So we've got 2 kids, 2 daughters. Our oldest daughter is 15. Her name is Chelsea. And our youngest daughter, she's 13. Her name is Georgia.
Okay. Did you always know that you wanted to work in ministry?
From my earliest recollections, I always wanted to be a pastor, wanted to share the Lord, wanted to share Jesus with people. That was the earliest thought I ever had. I had a Jonah year. Instead of going to Avondale in Australia, I went to university. It was the most miserable year of my life. And I prayed a prayer one night, God, if you want me to be a pastor, tell me or give me peace. Leave me alone. And that night, an unmistakable call came from Jesus. So, yeah, earliest times.
Sounds good. Someone out there wants to know how you met your wife.
Do you really want to know? Well, at Avondale, they had this policy. They said it's good for the theology students to do a science subject. Just rounds out their education. And the best subject to do, of course, would be biology. And so, because the nurses do biology, why not put the pastors and the nurses together to do biology together? And to be really honest, she was this magnificent, if I said creature, you'd take it the wrong way, but just goddess, I'll use that word again. And I couldn't go near her for a whole semester. Every time I went to speak to her, my mouth just wouldn't work. I was just frozen by her presence. And at the end of the semester, because the nurses, they leave Avondale and they go to Sydney, and they're only on the campus for 1 semester, I thought, imagine if life passed me by and I didn't speak to her. So I asked her out on a date with a group of us, and she said yes. So we met in biology, but we didn't talk in biology.
Sounds good. Let's see here. Somebody out there wants to know, what makes you certain that the Seventh-day Adventist Church is the true church?
Good question. Basically, because the Bible tells us so. It's what the Bible teaches. I'm convinced of that and sold on that. That's the reason I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. The Bible.
Amen. Well, we have a very full program tonight, but we look forward to hearing you speak in a few minutes.
Thanks, Evan. Thanks very much.
Good evening. Happy Sabbath. One more time. Good evening. Happy Sabbath. Oh, those sound like God's people there. All right, so if you can just humor me if you don't mind, can we just bow our heads for prayer? Just once again invite the Lord's presence. Lord God, I want to thank you so much for caring about us, Lord. So what we'd like to do right now, Lord God, is take 10, 15 minutes here, and we just want to tell you thank you. Then we're going to tell you that you're great. Then we want to tell you how much we love you. And then we want to just praise you for being who you are. And Father, we ask that as we do this for you, we ask that you, as it reaches your gates, we ask that it be a sweet, sweet, sweet sound in your ear. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen. Okay, so here's what I'm going to need us to do. Do we have? Yes, that has me smiling. Okay, so here's what I'm going to need you guys to do, right? This here, we're going to talk about God reigning, right? So as we sound like God's people, God's multitude here, I want you guys to say the words, He reigns, all right? So you want to try that. So it's going to be something like this. I'm going to say, He reigns, all right? That's 1, 2, 3. He reigns. Okay, that's not bad. So here's what you do. I'll be like 1, 2, 3, and you go, He reigns. Say it like that. Ready? 1, 2, 3. He reigns. I love that. You're my favorite too. It's like I hear just specifically your voice, and there's like 700 people in here. So that works for me. That's what I'm looking for. I want to hear everybody saying He reigns. All right. So let's try that. Let's get started. And when I tell you, I want to hear you say He reigns as we sing this song together. All right. Here we go. He reigns. All right. Again. Again. Here we go. One more time. Again. Almost ready to go out. Here we go. Let's go out. Here we go. We sing the praises to our King, for He is the King of Kings. We sing the praises to our King, for He's the King of Kings. We sing the praises to our King, for He is the King of Kings. We sing the praises to our King. Give Him glory, give Him glory, for He is the King. Give Him glory, for He's really easy. Give Him glory. He's the King. From the top, we sing the praises to our King, for He is the King of Kings. Sing the praises to our King, for He is the King of Kings. You got it. Here we go. We sing the praises to our King, for He is the King of Kings. We sing the praises to our King. Now let's give Him glory. Give Him glory. Why? What are we gonna do? Give Him glory. Why? For He's give Him glory. He's the King of. Here we say, all hail King Jesus. All hail King Jesus. There we go. All hail Emmanuel. All hail Emmanuel. You got that. Say, all hail King Jesus. All hail King Jesus. There we go. Let's make Him smile here. Sing, all. Here's why. Because He reigns forever. Here we go. He reigns forever. He reigns forever. He reigns forever and evermore. Yes. He reigns. He reigns. Say, my God reigns. And again, He reigns. He reigns. He reigns. Yeah. And one more time. He reigns. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do here. We're going to ask the Holy Spirit to give us the gift of tongues here. And we're going to try that same thing in Spanish here, all right? all our Spanish speakers. Any Spanish speakers in the building? Stand up and help me, please, my Spanish speakers. Please stand to your feet, my Spanish speakers, so you can help us with this. There we go. A little softer, a little softer. There we go. Those who learned Spanish, those who went overseas for a year, went to Argentina and Spain or Spain. So here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2. Reina, we say, reina por siempre, reina por siempre, reina por siempre, porque él es rey. Reina por siempre, yeah. Reina por siempre, reina por siempre, porque él es rey. Here, let me hear them. Reina. Woo. Reina. Let's get everyone on this. 1, 2. Reina, reina, por siempre, yeah. Reina, por siempre. Why? Porque él es rey. Reina. What are we gonna do? Yeah, rey. Why? All right, so Spanish speakers, please stay standing. What I'm gonna need now is our French speakers who know a little French, if you can get, okay. We've got a couple, spent a year in France or spent 15 years in Haiti. You can stand to your feet and help us with this next part, right? One, two. It's really simple. Here we go. It goes like this. Il règne à jamais. Il règne à jamais. Il règne à jamais. Et pour toujours. Il règne à jamais. Il règne à jamais. Il règne à jamais. Et pour toujours. Let me hear you. Il règne à jamais. Il règne à jamais. Et pour toujours. Il règne à jamais. Il règne à jamais. Il règne à jamais. Et pour tout. Yeah, coming with me, here we go. Il règne à jamais. Il règne à jamais. Et pour tout. Il règne à jamais. There we go. Il règne. In English, he reigns forever. He reigns forever. He reigns forever. He reigns. And what? He reigns forever. And evermore. Oh, hail King Jesus. Our God reigns. No, amen? He gets me, I get excited every time I think about him. I just can't help it. That's where the smile comes from when we're worshiping. If you guys can sing the song. How great is our God. Sing with me. How great is our God. And all will see how great is our God. I can't speak for anybody else's God, but for us who come here to worship, how great is our God. Sing with me, how is our God. And all will see, yeah, how great is our God. We say name above all names, name above all names. He's the name above all names. You are worthy to be worthy of all praise, and my heart will sing how There we go. Repeat after me. Really simple. Goes like this. It's to him. We lift your name on high. We lift your name on high. There you go. We lift your name on high. We lift your name on high. Say, we lift you higher. 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 Say it again. We lift your name on high. We lift your name on high. Oh, we lift your name on high. There we go. We lift your name on high. Here we go. We lift you higher. 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 Here's what. We lift your name on high. We lift your name on high. Oh, we lift your name on high. We lift your name on high. Say, we lift you higher. 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 We lift your name on high. 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 We lift you higher. 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 If I could get everybody to stand to their feet at this time. How great is our God? Sing with me. Sing with me. How great is our God? Is our God? All will see. All will see how great. How great. How great is our God? Is our God? One more time. Let's just make our God smile. Let's make him blush. How great. How great is our God. Sing with me. Sing with me. How great is our God. Is our God. And all will see. All will see how great. How great is our God. Is our God. Here I am to worship. worthy. Then my favorite. He's so wonderful. Can we say that again? Altogether wonderful to me. Altogether wonderful to me. Altogether wonderful. Altogether wonderful to me. One more time again, all together. Feel like I'm singing a love song to Jesus. All together. All right, this wasn't part of the plan, but watch me. Keep in that groove. Say this. 'Tis so sweet to trust in Jesus, just to take him at his word. Sing that love song to him. Just to rest upon his promise. Just to know, doth saith. So we sing Jesus, 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 Jesus. Yes. Just your love song to him. Oh, for grace. Together wonderful to me. You're all together, you're all together. So pretty, all together. All together. Try one more here. We sing holy, 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 merciful and mighty. God in three persons. Blessed wonderful to me. You're all together wonderful to me. As we end here, come to music, come to music. You're all together wonderful to me. You're all together, you're all together wonderful to me. Let's say a quick word of prayer.
Dear Lord, bless us in this place tonight. That's it. We love you. Be here. Amen. The parable of the wise and foolish virgins. Then the kingdom of heaven shall be likened to 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. Now 5 of them were wise, and 5 were foolish. Those who were foolish took their lamps and took no oil with them, but the wise took oil in their vessels. While the bridegroom was delayed, they all slumbered and slept. And at midnight, a cry was heard, "Behold, the bridegroom is coming. Go out to meet them." Then all the virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out." But the wise answered, saying, "No, lest there should not be enough for us and you, but go rather to those who sell and buy for yourselves." And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the wedding, and the door was shut. Afterward, the other virgins came also, saying, "Lord, Lord, open to us." But he answered and said, "Assuredly, I say to you, I do not know you. Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour in which the Son of Man is coming."
Hi everyone. It's an honour to be here, and thanks for the invitation. Weddings and getting married. It plays on our minds sometimes. Last summer, do you remember what happened? There was a huge wedding in England. Do you remember it? There was a royal wedding. There was Kate. And there was Prince William. Do you remember it? Yeah, that's cool. Special occasion. But who was the real star of the royal wedding? Was it the bride, Kate? Was it the groom, William in his military uniform? Was it the Queen? Well, I tell you what, it certainly wasn't the Archbishop of Canterbury. He didn't stand a chance. The real star of the show was the bridesmaid. Wasn't she the one that caught everyone's attention? Pippa. I asked a Brazilian friend if he remembered the royal wedding, and he said, "Oh, yes." And I said, "Who do you remember?" And he said, "Pippa in that dress." She caught people's attention. You know, Jesus told a parable, we heard it before, about a wedding where the bridesmaids were the stars of the show. And to be honest, it's a shocking parable. Not because it's a bad parable, it's shocking because it's full of surprises. In a sense, the parable is be prepared for a shock. Be prepared, or better still, watch. Hopefully there's Bibles in the pews, is that right? Okay, grab those Bibles and turn with me to Matthew 25. In an economical 13 verses, Jesus tells a story recorded by Matthew, and extraordinary pictures are drawn. Most of the conversations, most of the images are loaded, and there's a great amount of emotion as well. You'll notice how this parable begins. It begins with, at that time. And there's an obvious question there, at which time? Well, when we just cast our eyes back to Matthew 24, we've got this great long list of what's happening in the world just prior to Jesus' arrival. But Matthew chapter 25 is about what's happening in the church just before Jesus' return. And it begins with, the kingdom of heaven shall be like, or will be like. In other parables that Jesus told, particularly the ones recorded by Matthew, if you look in Matthew chapter 13, there's a whole string of parables there. The wheat and tares, the mustard seed, the yeast, the hidden treasure in a field, the pearl of great price. All of these parables begin with, the kingdom of heaven is like. But this parable is different. It begins with, the kingdom of heaven will be like, or shall be like, because it's talking about the future from Jesus' time. This parable is a special parable. It's special, but clearly, some people want to ignore this parable. A scholar by the name of Snodgrass writes, clearly, some scholars don't care for this parable, and often it's omitted or treated briefly. There's a penetrating sharpness to this parable. The parable is so sharp that there's actually a warning at the beginning of the parable. You see, the first two verses give a general summary, and they prepare a warning for the reading audience. It's like on the TV programs when there's an announcement, viewer discretion advised, because this parable is so shocking. One of the surprises or shocks in the parable is the bride. Well, there is no bride. Normally, at every wedding, who's in every picture? Normally, it's the bride. Back in the bad old days, grooms used to start their speeches by, on behalf of my wife and I. It was because the bride didn't speak at her wedding. This parable doesn't even have a bride. A bridegroom, bridesmaids, but no bride. That is a shock. Further, this parable isn't known as the late bridegroom, the midnight bridegroom. It's known as the 10 virgins. The bridesmaids are the focus. And this tells us something about the great storyteller who told this story. That he doesn't put himself in the middle as the star of the story. Because as far as heaven is concerned, it exists for our salvation. That's the place that we have. And if we're really honest, as we look at this parable, it's not about just 10 young women. Gender isn't the issue here, because the issues that are described in this parable are not peculiar to females. They're not the characteristics of just 10 young women. Instead, they're the characteristics of all humanity, of all nationalities and all cultures. But there are 5 wise and 5 foolish. Some commentators come up with different names for the wise. They call them thoughtful or sensible. But for the 5 foolish, they come up with some other synonyms like foolish, unwise, thoughtless, and one even calls them silly. 5 wise and 5 foolish. Ellen White makes a cutting comment. She says, this parable has been and will be fulfilled to the very letter. And to me, that is frightening in a sense. And so the actual parable begins in verse 3. It says, the foolish, they took their lamps, but they didn't take any oil with them. Now, what were those lamps? More current commentators describe the lamps. Some think those lamps are like those Herodian period-shaped lamps, those lamps that could fit in your hand, you know, with the teacup handle and a couple of holes with a wick coming out the end. Lose that thought. That's nothing like the lamps that were used in weddings. In fact, they're described as being on the end of long sticks. That's what they used in poorer villages. And they had a flammable substance like a cotton wrapped around the top. It was covered with oil, and that would burn. It didn't burn for a long time. Commentators say it burnt for about 15 minutes, but when it did burn, it burnt brightly. So that was the torches that they used. Verse 4 goes on and it says, the wise, however, took oil in jars along with their lamps. Historians tell us that these torches had straps to them, and strapped to those sticks or those holders were containers. And those containers held oil. And they were designed in such a way that the cotton end on the end of the torches was actually immersed into the containers with oil, like a baptism. And the cotton would absorb the oil like a cookie absorbs hot chocolate. You know what I mean? And it would just drink up that oil and it'd be ready for a big flaming show. Verse 5 tells us, the bridegroom was a long time in coming, and they all became drowsy and fell asleep. There's a few things that stand out in this verse. Finally, the bridegroom is introduced, but only after a whole heap of important information has been released about the bridesmaids. But the bridegroom, the identity of the bridegroom is unmistakable. Everything points to Jesus. The context, the content, and by specific word, the bridegroom is clearly Jesus. But the thing that really catches our attention in this verse is the delay. A long time. It seizes our attention because we can't help but read ourselves into this parable. How would we deal, how would we cope with this long delay? We're in this story. You and I are one of these 10. Let's explore this delay a little further. A commentator by the name of Craig Keener, he writes, all the virgins would have been ready for the groom had he arrived when they expected him to arrive. But he writes, the groom's delays were common. And they were common because weddings weren't just a staged processional. A wedding was an actual event that took a lot of negotiation to and fro. And people would be bargaining and bartering, saving face. Oh, my daughter, she's beautiful. She's worth more than this. And the groom says, your daughter's coming to a great home. And so there's all sorts of things going on. And this could go on for some time, hours. Some even suggest days. That's stretching things out, isn't it? There is a delay. But while the coming of the bridegroom may be delayed, it is inevitable. The bridegroom, and now we're talking about the ultimate bridegroom, Jesus will return, and he will return with power and great glory. However, they all became drowsy and fell asleep. Even the wise fell asleep. They were not superhuman. were designed by our Creator to sleep when we're tired. And the text, it's transparent here. They didn't sleep because they'd given up their faith or grown cold in their faith. That's not the context here. The sleep that the virgins slept was the beat of normal human life. They're not condemned for sleeping, and particularly for sleeping in the middle of the night. When else are virtuous people meant to sleep? Verse 6 says, at midnight, the cry rang out, "Here's the bridegroom, come out to meet him." Seriously, what event starts at midnight? Seriously. Yeah, because of modern technology, we're accustomed to watching big sporting events on the other side of the globe at midnight. But where they're playing the game and doing the stuff, it's not midnight there. It's only midnight where we're watching it. What starts at midnight? Weddings go until midnight, but they don't start at midnight. Normal people are in bed at midnight. Yeah, New Year's, we stay up until midnight, and then if you're sensible, you go to bed straight after. But if you're even more sensible, you go to bed, and when you wake up the next morning, it's the 1st of January, and you get a good night's sleep. That's what happens when you get older like me. But seriously, what starts at midnight? Do we have church board meetings at midnight? Do we have classes at midnight? I can imagine some people are writing some stuff at midnight, but hopefully you're not starting at midnight. What starts at midnight? This wedding starts at midnight. It's one of those other shocks in the parable. Yeah, other churches have midnight services, but we believe in the health message. We don't start our services at midnight. But here's the critical thing. Even with a moment's notice, all the virgins, the 5 wise, the 5 foolish, even though it's the middle of the night, boom, they're into action. And in many respects, when the wedding actually starts, makes no difference, because the die was cast a long time before that. The oil that wasn't in the lamp wasn't there a long time before. In actual fact, the bridegroom could have come in the middle of the day, and the 5 foolish still wouldn't have had any oil for their lamps. But the decisive moment comes. There's the midnight cry. The midnight cry. For Adventists, this is a loaded term. But even scholars of other denominations point out that this is the critical time, the midnight cry. And then we have these verses 7, 8, and 9. Let's notice these. It says, "Then all the virgins woke up, trimmed their lamps. The foolish ones said to the wise, 'Give us some of your oil, our lamps are going out.' 'No,' they replied, 'there may not be enough for both of us. Instead, go to those who sell oil and buy some for yourselves.'" A little while ago, I was in Slovenia. And I'll tell you what, it's nice to visit some beautiful countries like Slovenia, but jet lag takes its toll. And I can remember I'd been presenting, speaking, running seminars for a lot of the day, and it's stressful talking to people, and there's translation. You want to make sure that you're communicating. At the end of the day, you're absolutely washed out. And that night, I knew I was going to sleep, no medication required, and I was going to sleep for a long, sound time. But just before I got into bed, I sensed a strange prompting. Check your phone. Make sure it's charged. So I went and I got my phone, checked it. There's half the bars are there. That's enough. I can't be bothered finding the lead. Where is that lead to plug it in and charge it up? I'll turn it off and it won't lose anything, surely. Turned it off and slept. Woke up the next morning, turned on the phone, boom, a bar is gone, even though the thing's been turned off. You know how that happens? Yeah. So, presented some more seminars, had the phone off. After the seminars, turned the phone on. Oh, gee, it is a bit lower than I thought. And just then, my big brother from Australia called. He's 13 years older than me. It's always nice to hear from your big brother when he's on the other side of the world. It's a touch with home, you know? And I was excited. Good to hear from you. His name's Chester. I said, it's great to hear from you, Chester. How's everything? And he said, I got some bad news. And I said, who is it? And he said, it's Dad. And I said, Dad? Yeah, Dad was 84, strong guy, but his mother was still alive. She's 106. And Dad had his mother's constitution. You know, we thought that the only way that Grandma would die at 106 was if a snake bit her. You know, there was nothing that was going to kill Grandma, and Dad was the same. Dad died? Do you know how quickly a phone runs out of charge? Just when I needed to be in touch with the family. I'm the pastor in the family. Just when I needed to minister to the family and receive ministry myself. Just when I needed to make some travel plans and be in touch. The oil in the phone is gone. The people in this parable, the bridesmaids. Let's shine a torch on the 5 foolish ones just for a moment longer. The 5 foolish bridesmaids, they were waiting for the bridegroom to come. Because they were in the bridal party, they were probably related to the bridegroom. They had a relationship with the bridegroom. They were supportive. They associated with the wise. The foolish were not argumentative. They weren't destructive. They weren't carrying fire extinguishers. They weren't looking to put out lamps. But they had no oil in their lamps. They were missing the vital ingredient. It's like having a car, but no gasoline in the car. They didn't have to arrange the whole wedding. They weren't the wedding planners. They only had to turn up and have a lamp that would burn. That's the one thing they had to do. It's like in the orchestra. You're listening to a piece in the orchestra. You're waiting for that wonderful beat of the drum at that precise moment. The drummer comes, brings his drum, but he doesn't bring his drumstick. There's no beat when you need it. It's like the Super Bowl. There's the ball steward, I presume, or the World Cup. There's somebody responsible to bring the ball for the game. He brings the ball, but no pump to pump it up. What's the point? How do you have a game without an inflated ball? That's what was happening here. One job to do. That's all they had to do. And they didn't do it. They had the paraphernalia, but no fuel. I don't know about you, the cost of gasoline or petrol, as I call it. I even know how much petrol is in the rental car outside. And I don't even own the thing. I know sitting at the airport, hopefully my car's still there in the cheap car park, and hopefully the petrol, I know how much petrol's in that car. But do we know how much oil is in our lamp? These people didn't even know that they didn't have oil. Mark Finley writes, "The foolish virgins trusted in their past experience as if all that was needed for their spiritual lives was to turn up. The height of Christian folly is neglecting personal soul culture and believing that everything is all right. The foolish virgins neglected to nourish their own souls." Let's come back to verse 9 again. Verse 9, just rereading it. No, they replied, there may not be enough for both of us. Instead, go to those who sell oil and buy some for yourselves. This is another shocking verse. It's a jolting verse. It's surprising. The wise didn't even check to see if they had enough to share. They knew without looking. I can remember I asked a group of 15-year-olds that were in our house to close one Sabbath. We took the opportunity to read through this parable. Some of the best ideas come from 15-year-olds. And I asked them, is that fair? Is there justice in that? And one 15-year-old said, why should they risk their eternal life for people who place no value upon their own eternal life? It's impossible to share the oil. And in the context of a marriage, there are certain things that you can't share. Marriage is just between a man and a woman. Some things are to be shared, but some things are strictly not to be shared. And in that context, the oil couldn't be shared. It's like trying to get the air out of one car tire into another car tire. You can't do it. It's like trying to share a pen in an exam. It's impossible to share that. And in all likelihood, even the wise were probably at their limit and had nothing to share. And so in the middle of the night, there are these 5 foolish running out. There's no 7-Eleven or anything like that in that era. Trying to find somewhere to buy oil. And while they're looking, even though there had been a long delay, suddenly everything moves with alacrity and great speed. And we read that the door was shut. What's that alluding back to, folks? Talk to me. The door was shut. It's Noah's Ark, isn't it? This is big stuff here. This isn't just small stuff. The door was shut. And then we read, verse 10, but while they were on their way to buy the oil, the bridegroom arrived. The virgins who were ready went in with him to the wedding banquet, and the door was shut. Verse 11, later the others came back. Sir, they said, open the door for us. But he replied, I tell you the truth, I don't know you. The door isn't opened. Even the bridegroom, he doesn't go out to talk with them, to explain the situation. He talks through the door to his relatives and he says, I don't know you. Being a member of the Seventh-day Adventist Church is not enough. Being a bridesmaid is not enough. Working for the church, getting a degree at a church institution is not enough. Being a pastor is not enough to get through the door. And so we come to the take-home point of the parable, verse 13. Therefore, keep watch, because you do not know the day or the hour. So as we read through this parable, as we explore it, as we ponder this story, there's a natural question. A question about the oil. How do we put oil in our jar for the big event? And the answer is in the final verse, in the punchline. Keep watch. By watching, we put oil in our jar. When we watch, we hope. When we watch, we live our lives in joyous anticipation. When we watch, we pray and we long for Jesus to return. When we watch, we study our Bibles about Jesus. When we watch, we have to speak about Jesus. Therefore, keep watch, because we do not know the day or the hour. Whenever it is, we're not asked to organize the second coming. We are simply invited to watch and be ready, to turn up. We're not the wedding planners. We're bridesmaids. And to keep watch.
Good evening, everyone. In the pews in front of you, could you all just grab the orange cards? They say, seek the way. On the back of these cards, you guys have an opportunity to respond to the message you've just heard. There are different options, such as choosing to become a follower of Christ, if you'd like more information about baptism, or if you'd like to become a student missionary, or anything else, there's a line you can write something in. Please fill out these cards if you're interested in responding to the message tonight. And there are ushers that will be next to the curtains and on the exits that you guys can hand these to, and someone from Campus Ministries will be in contact with you soon. We don't want it to just end tonight. If God has stirred up in your heart that you want to take the next step, either become a member of the family of God or take a step for God, please fill out this card. Someone will be in contact with you. We are going to go ahead and have a prayer. If you could all bow your heads with me. Dear God, I just want to thank you so very much for your word. I thank you so much for your parable that has reminded us of the fact that we need to be ready. Yes, it seems at times like your coming has been delayed and like we've been waiting since before 1844, before Auntie White and all those other people were waiting. But God, I know that you're coming soon. And so I just pray that you help us to have oil, to read your word, and to be watching and waiting for you. I ask all these things in your holy name. Amen. Amen. All right. So one last announcement. If you want to continue worshiping, Impact will be immediately after this service in Berman Hall. And before I dismiss, please make sure you give the person next to you a Sabbath hug, because you all look just so wonderful. Give each other a hug, and you are now dismissed.